A terrifying 40 minutes of silence from space has ended for NASA's Artemis II mission, marking one of the most serious communication failures in recent lunar exploration history. The crew, including astronaut Christina Koch, lost all contact with Earth during a critical phase of their journey to the Moon. Mission Control in Houston worked frantically to re-establish the link, while the four-person crew orbited in complete radio darkness. When contact was finally restored, a relieved Koch transmitted the first words back to Earth, saying it was so great to hear from Earth again. The communication blackout occurred during what should have been routine mission operations, raising immediate questions about the reliability of deep space communication systems. This incident represents a significant setback for NASA's ambitious plan to return humans to lunar orbit for the first time since the Apollo era. The space agency has not yet disclosed the technical cause of the failure, but engineers are conducting a full investigation to prevent similar blackouts during future deep space missions. Australia's most decorated living soldier has been arrested on war crimes charges, sending shockwaves through the nation's military establishment. Ben Robert Smith, a former Special Air Service corporal and Victoria Cross recipient, was taken into custody following allegations he was involved in the murders of unarmed Afghan civilians during his deployment. The arrest comes after Robert Smith suffered a devastating legal defeat when he lost his defamation case against journalists who reported on the alleged killings. The court proceedings revealed disturbing testimony about unlawful killings in Afghan villages between 2009 and 2012. Robert Smith had sued the newspapers for millions, claiming the reports destroyed his reputation as a war hero. Instead, the judge ruled the murder allegations were substantially true, paving the way for criminal charges. This case represents the most high-profile prosecution to emerge from Australia's inquiry into alleged war crimes committed by special forces in Afghanistan, which recommended criminal investigations into dozens of incidents involving the killing of prisoners and civilians. Michigan has muscled its way to college basketball immortality, capturing the program's second NCAA championship with a gritty 69-63 victory over defending champion UConn. The Wolverines abandoned their high-scoring reputation for old-school defensive basketball, making just 2 three-pointers all night while grinding out points in the paint. UConn's stingy defense, which had suffocated opponents throughout March Madness, finally met its match against Michigan's physical inside game. The championship game became a defensive battle that contrasted sharply with the high-scoring affairs that defined this tournament. Michigan's victory ends a championship drought dating back to 1989 and validates Coach Juwan Howard's rebuilding of the program. The Wolverines overcame early foul trouble and a halftime deficit to dominate the final 20 minutes with relentless rebounding and interior scoring. This title represents the culmination of years of recruiting blue-chip talent and developing a winning culture in Ann Arbor. The victory also breaks the recent dominance of East Coast programs in college basketball's premier event. President Trump faces his most critical foreign policy test as Tuesday's deadline for Iran to reopen the Strait of Hormuz approaches with no signs of diplomatic breakthrough. The vital shipping lane, through which 20% of global oil passes daily, has been effectively blockaded by Iranian naval forces for over a week, sending energy prices soaring worldwide. Trump's ultimatum, delivered in characteristically forceful language, has backed both nations into a corner with little room for face-saving compromise. Iranian leaders have shown no indication they plan to comply with American demands, while continuing to justify the blockade as retaliation for renewed economic sanctions. The standoff has rattled global markets and prompted emergency meetings among NATO allies concerned about potential military escalation. Trump finds himself in a delicate political position, having campaigned on avoiding new Middle Eastern conflicts while projecting strength against Iranian aggression. Military analysts warn that any American action to forcibly reopen the strait could trigger a broader regional war involving Iran's proxy forces across the Middle East. England's healthcare system faces its most severe disruption in decades as doctors begin an unprecedented 6-day strike over pay and working conditions. The National Health Service has issued urgent guidance advising patients to use emergency services only when absolutely necessary, while confirmed appointments should still be attended as scheduled. Thousands of junior doctors and consultants have walked off the job simultaneously, creating a perfect storm of understaffing across hospitals and clinics nationwide. The strike represents the culmination of months of failed negotiations between the British Medical Association and the government over what doctors call poverty wages and dangerous working conditions. Emergency departments are operating with skeleton crews while routine surgeries and specialist consultations face massive cancellations affecting tens of thousands of patients. The government has refused to meet doctors' demands for inflation-matching pay increases, arguing the country cannot afford such expenditure during economic uncertainty. This industrial action comes at the worst possible time for an NHS already struggling with record waiting lists and staff shortages that predate the current labor dispute.